The weather is calming down and the fishing is heating up. So dust off your tackle box, get the boat ready because our guides have the best information for your weekend. This is the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Hey y'all, and welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. We are getting ready for a great 4th of July weekend and into next week full of barbecues, fireworks, and of course, great fishing, right, Rick?
That's right. And guess what else it is?
What?
One of my friends has a birthday. You know about that?
I might.
Yeah.
I
How
might.
old
She
are
just
you
might be
going to
getting older.
22?
27.
What?
Yep,
Come
I'm proud
on.
to say.
Well,
I'm gonna be a nice ripe 27.
Our guy over at the workbench, he hadn't seen 27 for years.
About 27 years, something like that.
About 27 years.
Yeah.
Dave, you got some good rigs and techniques?
27, that's old maidish, right? That's about old maid time. Aren't you getting married soon? You better be getting quick.
I
Very
am.
quick.
I am. September's coming pretty quick. I'll be all hitched and stuff.
I love it.
All
I
right, guys.
love it.
Well, without further ado, we're going to get started with Captain Caleb Harp in the Upper Coast region, who has some great offshore and inshore news for this weekend. Hey, Caleb.
Hey, Bree, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Getting ready to be old, apparently.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For us.
Just good.
Two 20-year-olds talking to each other. Love it.
Yeah. Got a while. But hey, guys, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about these trout. The trout bite in West Bay has been pretty good on the shorelines all spring and early summer for the weight fishermen. And even though the wading routine will still be productive most of the year, the drift action is heated up down there as well. A lot of people don't really think of West Bay as being that good for drifting in the summer, but it can be amazing. And it's not hit with as much pressure as East Bay is. Now, Karankawa Reef in the middle of the West Bay is always a good place to locate trout in the summer months. And Karankawa Reef runs pretty much all the way across the bay from the Jamaica Beach canals all the way to the North Shoreline. Using your Navionics on your GPS, you can see the different dimensions of the reefs and drifting properly. Most of the guys fishing this area, they're throwing live croaker, but you can catch them good on soft plastics too. Miller, Little Johns, soft shads, and purple or chartreuse colors on an 8-ounce jig head is the best bet. And then going to the redfish have been consistent on the Galveston jetties. With all the current bait presence and structure to hide in, jetties are just always a notorious place to go find redfish. And this time of year, we'll produce some of the most consistent redfish catches out there. Live baiting like freeline shrimp, croaker, or mullet, is always going to produce good bites, but the artificial game out there is hard to beat as well. Crankbaits like Rapala DT16, the 20s, and Fire Tiger, Clown, any kind of natural mullet-looking color can be good, as well as vertical jigging gulp shrimp on a 3/4 to 1 ounce jig head. And there's been a lot of bull reds out there, but if you weed through the giants, you can catch some slots as well. And going offshore, cobia are probably going to be your best bet again, just because this wind just not laying down. And being that you don't have to go as far to get on this cobia as far as, the other species. But, they're still going to be on nearshore structures, navigation buoys, and anything standing above the water on the Sabine, Galveston, and Freeport beachfront. If you come up to them and they're on top, you can start casting by pitching big swim baits. And if they're down, you can drop down and just use big curly tail or bucktail jigs. And then the tarpon, it's about to start doing it right. We just need the weather to cooperate. And when that wind does die down, the tarpon program is going to be in full swing. Trolling dead shad can produce more bites, but you'll have to deal with the sharks and the jacks a lot more. The coon pop lures is a great choice to troll behind the boat. And the Galveston beachfront from High Island to San Luis Pass, 30 to 50 foot of water, can produce some of the biggest tarpon on the coast, up to about 200 pounds.
So, Caleb, I have a couple questions for you. What's your favorite way to fish for those tarpon whenever you have calm weather? How do you like to fish for them?
Man, most of the time just trolling up and down. You got to find them first using, sonar. And, if you can see them, it's really, good. If they're greyhounding or something, typically they're greyhounding, you're not going to get them to eat. But when you find them, the biggest thing here is just finding them. They call it tarpon alley from 30 to 50 foot range. Once you find them, just trolling coon pops or, like I said, shad through them, and you'll be able to trigger a bite. But main thing is finding them. Second thing is getting them to eat.
Yeah, I got it. We do a lot of that deep water fishing in Florida, and I just wanted to know maybe there's some techniques that we're using here. So I could share with you guys, it'll help you guys in a big way. So I'd like to know a little more about that. and that way maybe we can elaborate on it going forward. Good job.
Yeah.
One last question real quick. The name of that reef you were talking about, which is in your hotspots, how do you pronounce that? What?
Karankawa, like the Indians, the Karankawa Indians.
Karankawa Indians. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the CCA hotspots from the Upper Coast region. He says drifting at Karankawa Reef in West Galveston Bay has been good lately. Working the edges of the reef can be very productive. Mirror lure, soft shads, and little johns and chartreuse and purple colors on an 1/8 ounce jig head are the best, and then cobias on the near shore structures. And anything standing above the water on Galveston, Sabine, and Freeport beachfront. Sight cast with big swim baits is a great way to catch them. And if you are down, or if they are down, you might want to try dropping down a big bucktail or even a curly-tailed jig.
Karankawa.
Karankawa. See,
You'll get there.
You know
we'll
what?
get there.
I'm so glad you speak Spanish,
It's just me.
even though it's not Spanish, because
right.
you understand it.
Let's just move on.
Because we had something in the Southwest region, I mean the lower fresh region a few weeks ago, and you had to bail me out on that. I just don't understand these things.
Sí, hablo español.
Yes.
Okay, the Upper Fresh region is up next with Rick Carter. Rick, come on, let's hear it. Let's just get to the reports.
Hey guys, we're going to go north this week up to Lake Texoma. The stripers up there are on the move. The big ones are being caught all last week. 2-ounce spoons drop through the smaller fish, and the shad balls up top are catching the bigger fish down below. If you see the fish working on top on Texoma, rattle traps and yellow magic topwaters in shad pattern are the baits to throw at those on top. The bass have been schooling around Highport and the dam area. That'd be a good place to start. Once they stop schooling, graph them up and try the Storm 5-inch swim bait. Bunker color and white are the best colors on that. Moving on to Joe Pool Lake, a little lake south of Fort Worth. Great lake for bass. The bass are biting Texas rig crawworms and Texas rig Cincos right now. Switching to wacky worms midday, fishing around the rocks, and the watermelon red color on that wacky are the best colors right now. White bass have been good on Main Lake points, very early on Cordell spoons and white buzz baits. That's on Joe Pool Lake. Moving on to Lake Fork, the home lake here, the bass are continuing to school on points and shallow humps early around the lower end of the lake. The best fishing has been the solid white shad assassin, weightless, about a 3-inch size on a 4-aught hook. Just let that fall through the schooling fish early, and you'll get some good bites on that. And the old famous Whopper Plopper has a new size, a 110, and that's been great this week on the bone color. The Whopper Plopper is a great bait.
All right, so tell us about the photo here, Rick.
Hey, you got a photo there of Dr. Kimberly in Greenville, Texas. Caught him a big old fish. It wasn't that heavy because he looked kind of skinny, but it was a big fish.
Yeah, he does look like he's after the spawn, of course. Now,
Yes,
how
sir.
much weight do you think those fish lose after they spawn? Would you have any guess on that, Rick? Has any biologist ever shared that info for you?
Man, that post-spawn sometimes, depending on how fast the lake heats up and stuff, can really take them down, especially those males that are fry guarders that go around with the little baby bass and work and stay with them. They get pretty slim looking.
I love it. All right, so what else you got for us this week, Chief?
Hey, we got more crappie on Lake Fork. Terry, the crappie guides. The fish are going deeper, 20 to 24 foot, around the standing timber and brush piles. Catching them this week on the fall light line spinning tackle with the LFT live baby shad and chartreuse white. That pick there is old Billy Monroe and his daughter Heather out with Terry Moon this week. They had a big cooler crappie.
Oh, my goodness. So, Rick, I do have a couple questions for you. First question is, what's your favorite thing to do this time of year? Obviously, it gets really hot. How do you deal with the heat, and what's your favorite thing to do this time of year?
My favorite thing is to throw a big 10-inch worm or about a 3/4 ounce jig on deep water, 20 to 30 foot. I'll sit out there and get them on the ranch and just pick them up. And you fish them long enough, you can tell how the fish are positioned on the bottom if they're ready to bite. I mean, you can almost call the bite at times. You get in a repetition of how they're setting up. That's my favorite way to catch them, especially during the summer.
All right. And so how do you deal with all that heat all day long? What would you suggest to somebody who maybe has never gone with a guide before?
Man, sometimes if it's really smoking, we'll do a split trip and take them out, go in at lunch, fish, have a siesta, and go back out late that evening and fish till sunset, and that gives them a full day of fishing. And a lot of our customers do that here in this part of Texas. It will get to smoking.
All right, I appreciate all those tips, and just so you know, Bree actually whispered in my ear what a siesta was, because I guess she didn't think I knew what a nap was. At my age, I know every name and every language for a nap. So anyway, besides all that, we appreciate the great report from the Upper Fresh region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots that our guide Rick Carter gave us. Lake Texoma, stripers are schooling in the water, and then big slabs and large top waters will get a lot of action starting down near the dam. And then Lake Fork, crappie is still on the brush in 20 feet biting jigs and minnows.
How about thank you
Thank you, Bree.
for siesta?
Thank
You wait
you.
and see. I'm not going to help you with Spanish anymore. See how far you get and spoiled. Okay, we've got you covered next, Middle Coast region, but we want to get y'all ready for rigs and techniques know-how with Dave Farrell. Dave, what's going on over here?
Well, we're going to talk about bottom rigs and whatnot and how to keep your Labrador out of the lawnmower. This is what happens to their tongue.
Well,
That's what it looks
that
like.
sounds like a good rigs and techniques to me. We'll be right back with all of that and more. Siesta.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. The American Fishing Tackle Company. Precision tackle and performance clothing since 1958. Guy Harvey, marine wildlife artist and conservationist. Navionics. We start where the road ends. CCA Texas, a leader in marine conservation. And Okuma, inspired fishing.
Meet the water's lightest 25 horsepower four-stroke, the all-new Yamaha F25, the new standard and 25 horsepower portable four-strokes. At just 126 pounds, it's got the best power-to-weight ratio of any 25 horsepower four-stroke on the water. With performance that bests the previous Yamaha F25 and features like Yamaha's BTS for precise trolling speeds, batteryless EFI, built-in resting pads, and carry handles, it's the perfect portable power for small boats.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
Inside you, there's an outside you. A you that takes the road less traveled than the road less traveled, and finds the comforts of home extremely uncomfortable. This is for that you.
Remember to follow our guides and be up to date on all things fishing in Texas. Make sure to head over to TexasInsiderFishingReport.com. You can also catch all of our shows on our YouTube channel too. Remember to like us on Facebook at Texas Insider Fishing Report and follow us on Instagram at TifferTV. Also, don't forget to send and tag us in your fish-tastic photos and videos. Now, it's time for Rigs and Techniques.
Well, we're here at the CCA
Yes,
workbench, and certainly every week we talk about rigs and techniques.
Yep.
You have a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
what
we're
are
not
we
going to
gonna
talk about
this week?
we're not going to talk about most of that stuff out there. That's just a teaser for you. But we're going to
Thank you.
we're
so
going
much.
to talk about making a dropper loop. A lot of the, that's getting to be summertime. The wind's starting to die down. Hopefully, these fellas are going to be able to get to go offshore. And if you go out and buy these rigs pre-made, they cost quite a bit of money, and they're really not that hard to make. And so I'm just going to go through it. How you can make these little rigs. We call them chicken rigs.
Right.
And we use 2 knots to make this thing.
So let's
A
get
dropper.
with it.
Okay. First off, you need about 6 or 8 feet of 100 to 80 pound mono. I like to use more. 8 feet is where I want to start, because once you start making these loops, they take up a lot of line, which you don't realize, and then you got 2 little stubby things at the end.
So you start with 6 to 8 feet.
6 to 8 feet to start off with, to make
Okay.
to make a 2 drop rig. If you're going to make 12 feet to make a 3 drop rig, you want
Got
to
it.
start with. But go try to look about, get you how far you want your top swivel to be to your first loop.
Mm-hmm.
Come down to about that right there, and then you got to twist this line to make a loop.
Right.
Get it to how big you want it,
Right.
and then you simply start turning these pieces over at the place where the loop comes out of the main line. Do it 3 or 4 times, and then you got to stuff this. Here, go ahead and stuff this.
So we're going to take this loop.
Yep. Take the whole loop and stuff it back through that little hole that you made, and then when you pull these down, it turns into a dropper loop.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is you got a couple coils on top and a couple coils on the bottom, and then you come down, and you want to get at least this far apart from your next one.
Right.
And then
at least the
length of that one, and then
Okay.
you make another loop,
Okay.
and you make it as big as you want.
Holding
three
them
up.
paralleling, but twisting them.
Exactly. Just twist them one over the top of the other,
And then
you
this.
put the whole loop back through the middle, and tighten it down, and you've got another one.
Okay.
Now, from here, you got several things you can do to attach your hooks. You can either loop them on, which you're going to do right there. You just pass the whole loop through the hook eye.
Crimp it, kind of.
Yeah.
Now you can either go over like so
Mm-hmm.
and pull tight like that,
Right. Or you could go under it.
or you can do you guys do this?
Yeah. I like to go all the way over the top, actually.
Show me.
I like to have the knot outside of the hook eye, but sometimes it won't stay if you're using real heavy monofilament. So
Show
you'll have
that
to
camera,
to put it on the shank of the hook.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have lighter stuff, you can actually bring it off the shank and have it come all the way to the top.
Mm-hmm.
But see, this is heavy mono, so it's going to want to spring back down.
Got it.
Now, the good thing about the dropper loop is either one of these strings, first off, it's 100% knot. It doesn't weaken your main line.
Right.
And if you want to, you can cut one of these legs and tie the hook on. And that makes your loops longer.
What?
Yeah. You can cut one of these off if you have a sharp knife.
All right, so show me. Oh, instead of having the loop, you're going to tie it out here,
Just
way
gonna
out
tie
here.
it way outside.
Okay.
So
And you just tie it on with whatever knot you want.
right.
Okay.
I like to use a double uni knot.
Double uni.
Yeah.
Show the camera here. Not that one, this one.
To make a double uni knot,
Uh-huh.
just wrap it around 3 times through the hole. With this heavy stuff, you can do it 3 times.
Right.
You can do it 4 times. Make sure it's well lubed.
Yeah. Guys, we can't emphasize enough that when you go to pull a knot down, you're going to always want to wet it. And the reason why is
It
when
won't
you
burn
cinch it
It
down,
won't burn your mono.
it doesn't crystallize the mono or heat up the mono,
Right.
which would make it brittle.
Now you got a really long hook on there. And to finish them off, you just do an overhand loop at each end. One to hold your swivel, where your swivel attaches from your main line. You can actually tie it to a barrel swivel, but I like to use a really high quality ball bearing swivel, and they're a little bit more expensive, but they actually swivel under a load. A barrel swivel won't swivel under a load. So to tie this knot, you just make a loop, and you just go through it 3 times.
And then
Make a
on
loop.
this end,
Do the same thing. Double
Making a
surgeon's loop. Just goes through 3 times. That's fun, isn't it?
yeah, no problem.
It's fun doing them on TV.
And then this one, you would attach the weight.
Correct. I've got one already made like that.
Oh, you
too.
do?
Yeah.
Thank
This is one completely made. I've got the bottom hook with a cut single, so it's swinging wide, and this one's on the double, so it's a little shorter and it doesn't hang to this.
Nice work.
And there you gotta, and that'll catch everything from little snappers to big groupers, whatever you want. That's the chicken rig that catches everything that swims on the bottom.
Nice work.
Yeah, no worries.
I appreciate that.
And they're not
Bree?
expensive.
No, they never are. Is when you're making them yourself, right,
Yeah.
Bree?
Right, knot tying class with Dave. I love it. I've learned, I think my best knot I've ever learned from you, Dave, was the FG knot.
That's a great one.
Freaking good. That's what FG stands for. All right, Captain Bink Grimes in the Middle Coast region has an awesome report for this 4th of July weekend, so let's hear it, Bink.
All right. Hey, our tides have been 2 to 3 foot above normal due to Tropical Storm Cindy, and though they've gone down a little bit, water levels remain well above normal due to the stiff east winds we've had this week. That's fine by us because we don't really mind inflated tides during the summer. It kind of gives us more real estate to fish and cools down the water during the dog days of summer. And Palacios, the upper reaches of the bay, like Chris Palacios Bay and Karankawa Bay, have been good along the shorelines holding shell. Guide Ray Sexton has been wading tight to those reefs and picking off solid trout early in the morning. For boaters, there have been birds working around Hotel and Palacios Point, but most have been undersized fish. Better fish have been found around Half Moon Reef, Coon Island, and the barge. Guide Michael Quebecer there in East Matagorda Bays had fish to 9 pounds this week. His boat released several other fish over 7 pounds while making afternoon drifts. Some of his better catches have come along the north shoreline on the incoming tide. That's real close to the intercoastal waterway and the mud flats adjacent to the canal. It's great. It's a really, really good spot for big trout to fall on and off those shallows during the day. Waders in East Bay have welcomed the high tides, which pushed those big trout up on the shorelines. I caught one, I guess, Saturday, 28.5 inches on a little small skitter walk. It was a really good fish. But we're crushing consistent 3 to 5 pounders on top waters and soft plastics, and also the live baiters are throwing croakers at them. Port O'Connor continues to shine for trout. The back lakes came alive with the high tides. Early morning top water action has been great, and later in the morning, captains have found chesty water along the channels and worked the depths with down south lures, bass assassins, little johns, and gamblers. And we're still waiting for the surf to calm down. But all that low pressure in the Gulf has still just been a little bouncy out there for us. But we know when we get a chance, it's going to be really good. And there's a photo there with a bunch of smiles of anglers and upper reaches of West Matagorda Bay this week. They were wading over shell with those tides and got them a really, really nice stringer of trout. We'll go to flounder. That flounder action has been good in the bios and the guts along the south shoreline of West Matagorda Bay while wading with live shrimp and Gulf. Best action has been early in the morning for flounder because they pull up really shallow during the night. Giggers have found easy limits of flounder around Port O'Connor and West Matagorda Bay. Most of the fish are off the points of shell. They're just kind of waiting to ambush all that bait. Those muddy bottoms around Freeport and around the bios close to San Luis Pass are holding good numbers of flatfish as well. Basically, if you want a good mess of flounder, it's a real early morning or a real late in the afternoon bite.
All right, Bink, tell me about the redfish, and then we're going to take the Navionics from your region.
All right, man, our swollen tides, our redfish have been were tough to find until we got all these tides from the storm, and now they've just shown up everywhere. More water in the bay, once again, gives us more real estate to fish. Guide Michael Roth and Al Garrison, they've been using their power pole and working points on the North Carolina, West Matagorda Bay. They found good reds around Maverick Bow and Big Bow and Hidden Bow and Zipper Run Bow, and they're using live shrimp on their Mid-Coast popping court. Those back lakes around there at Oyster Lake, Crab Lake, and Horse Crater Lake have been good as well. Don't be surprised to find black drum over those reefs, too. Shell Island's been good with the high tides, and lots of black drum are there as well. And in Port O'Connor, we're fishing Pringle, Conti, and shoal water, and they're holding good numbers of reds. A lot of them are making drifts over, but waders are throwing small topwaters like little skitter walks, little Super Spook Juniors, and doing really well. And of course, always the big bull reds are always at the jetties. There's some monsters there at Port O'Connor and Freeport, and finger mullet and pogies are getting the job done there. And there's a picture there of the redfish we caught this week with real high tides.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a second and show everybody about some of the Navionics stuff that we have on the using my iPad and the app. Now, one thing I really have grown to love about this is how I'm able to create routes. So by pushing the route number and then go into the automatic, what's going to happen is all I have to do is, if I'm not sure where I want to go, is I'm going to touch here. Let's say I want to go all the way up in here. In just that short period of time, it'll create a route for me. And then all I got to simply do is, once it creates the route, which it's done here, then I just push go, and then it'll actually tell me which way to follow the intercoastal to go in there. That's the one thing I love about the avionics and creating our own routes. We push go, and it would tell me exactly how to go, how long to get there, and any navigational hazards that there might be. So check that out on your app or on your iPhone. And remember that Navionics now, you have the ability to download all your upgrades through your Wi-Fi on most of your plotters. All right, Bink, what else you got for us offshore?
Offshore, lots of triple tail. Offshore game's been kind of tough lately with all that tropical moisture out there, but man, there's a lot of triple tail out there. But the good news this week is seas are supposed to run 2 to 3 feet, so it ought to allow some of the bigger boats to get out. Those weed lines are holding large triple tail, and man, not very many people target them offshore. Don't understand why, but they don't. Man, they're excellent table fare. There's a lot of Dorado with them there, and it's a good bite on light tackle. Our red snapper is still great over rocks and wrecks in 40 to 80 foot of water. Our big water anglers are happy they can legally take snapper in state and federal waters every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday now through Labor Day. And our kingfish are good while trolling. The big cobia are still coming up on the surface around the rig. And so it's been good.
All right, thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Middle Coast region. My captain there, Mr. Bink, says trout are good in
Tres Palacios Bay,
around Coon Island and back and the backside of Oyster Lake. Look for the birds working over the shrimp. And then offshore, triple tails are good on the weed lines, on shrimp, and on lots of Dorado have been there as well.
Day nada. You know, Rick, every week we talk about what CCA is doing to enhance and preserve our coastlines. And this week, Building Conservation Trust, CCA's Habitat Program, has raised over $9 million towards marine habitat conservation projects that benefits recreational anglers and coastal communities. To learn more about how to contribute, make a pledge, or get involved with corporate giving and matching, visit www.buildingconservation.org. Your gift will be matched at least 3 times to ensure a significant impact on U.S. coastal marine life. CCA, the leader in marine conservation and habitat restoration.
So isn't that cool?
That's
I
so
give you
cool.
$1 and it turns into 3. That's cool.
Thanks, CCA. Okay, South Texas, listen up because we're casting to the lower fresh and lower coast regions shortly, right here on the Texas Insider
Fishing Report.
Sí, vamos.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, performance through innovation. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. CCA Star, fishing fun for giant prizes and scholarships. Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. And King Sailfish Mounts, www.kingsailfish.com.
At Yamaha, reliability is a family tradition. Meet the next generation. 4 new advanced technology-inspired inline 4-cylinder performers. Bred from the reliability and boater satisfaction that is part of Yamaha's DNA. They prove that when power gets lighter, faster, stronger, and smarter, boating gets even better. And more satisfying for boaters like you.
Hey,
How do you like your contender?
How do I like my contender? What's not to like?
Dude, I just saw a contender, and man, I gotta give me one.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle.
When it comes to sailfishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Rick, you know, I see you have your red and your blue jeans on, but where's your white? 4th of July's coming up. America. Nope. Oh, okay, that's good enough. I've got my Costa American
You know,
on.
I still wear tidy whities.
I thought it was gonna say an S underneath that shirt.
Tidy whities. I got the tidy whities.
Okay. Anyway, the Yeti Lower Fresh region has its hot spots for this weekend, and Matt Reed is gonna guide you through them all. Go for it, Matt.
Matt, are you a tidy whitey guy?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll never tell, Rick. That's just not any of your business.
Because he's a gentleman. Gentlemen don't wear and tell.
That's my man. Keep a secret.
Oh, man.
All
Y'all
right.
ready to talk about a little fishing down south?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's start out with largemouth bass like I usually do. I'm going to start out at Lake Falcon this week. Actually just got off the water. It's fishing really well right now. You can catch them from one end of the lake to the other. On the upper end, catch them cranking a square boss crankbait on the shallow rock, either in the moon glow color or school bus. That's the best two colors right now in that dirtier water. There's also a flipping bite on the hardwood trees. You can catch lots of numbers of nice sized fish. You don't catch a great big one doing that very often. You'll catch a 5 or 6 pounder, but that's about where you top out fishing hardwood trees right now, but that's still a good fish. The best bite for me is on a crankbait on the lower, from the mid lake to the lower end. Z-Boss 20 crankbait in either Blue Moon or the Citrus Shed color on the ledge rock has been my best bite. They're in 10 to 18 foot. You can also catch those fish on football jigs or a big worm on a stand-up head. It's been really fun. I mean, had a 9.5 pounder today and several other nice fish. So let's roll from Falcon down to Fayette County. My buddy Greg Boyk sent me a report from Fayette County. He says the bass are excellent on top waters in 0 to 5 feet along the main lake points where they have scattered grass on them. There are a lot of fish being caught right now on the main lake points on up in the day in 17 to 20 foot of water on soft plastics, either Carolina rig, Texas rig, or also they'll bite a football jig. That's a pattern that'll hold throughout the summer. Those fish are out there and they'll be there till it starts to cool down. The grass in that lake is really good shape for hydrilla right now. And when you have grass, you can totally relate the number of bass to the amount of grass. That just makes a healthy fishery. Going to rotate to the Austin area. Brian Cotter at Texas Hogs has sent me a report from Lake Travis. Travis is fishing good right now. They're catching a lot of fish. Most of them are smaller, which is kind of the history there with Travis. Clear, beautiful water, but you know, the fish is pretty good. You catch a lot of numbers. He's catching them on light tackle with finesse worms and watermelon or green pumpkin colors. That's either on a Texas rig or a shaky head, you know, a jig head with a worm on it. Wacky rig Cincos are also working well. They're doing that at night a lot in a black color. And, you know, summertime you can dodge the heat, trying to get out there at night and see what they do. They really bite pretty well at night. So
dark colors at night are a big key. Roll into one more bass report. James Bray has sent me a report from Choke Canyon. The top water bite around the grass is early it's awesome early around the hydrilla. Catching them in the back of pockets where the grass is the best. Once the sun comes up, those fish are moving to the outside edge of the grass line, and they're fishing watermelon flukes and Texas rig worms, catching a bunch of fish on that outside edge. He had a couple of really good fish this week, slipping a half ounce jig on the hardwoods in 4 to 8 foot of water that had grass around them, close to them. So he said it was necessary to have that grass close to the hardwood to catch those better fish. If you go down to the clearer water on the lower end of the lake, catching fish in a summer pattern on the rocks out to about 20 foot, throwing Carolina rigs and football jigs. It's really great to see the hydrilla coming back in a lot of these lakes. That's just really good for healthy fisheries. That's the spawn, the recruitment. They have somewhere to hide, and they survive. So it's great for our fisheries.
Tell me about the alligator gar there, Mr. Matt.
Oh, man, that's kind of a strange report, but you can't imagine how big these things are at Lake Falcon right now. And there's a whole bunch of them. There's 2 ways they can fish for them. They bow hunt for them most of the time. They have a big platform, flat-bottom boats they can get up high and see. Shoot them they bow fish for them, shoot them with a fishing arrow, throw a float on them and hold on. Because, there's fish that are in the 100 to 200 plus pound range are fairly common. The other way they're fishing for them now is with fresh cut carp floating it under balloons or either on the bottom in the areas where you see them rolling. They'll be in schools in these areas, and they have to come up for surface for air fairly often, so that's how they bow hunt for them.
Tell me about the photo here, Bug.
That is a picture of a 226-pound alligator gar was shot the other day by a bow fisherman. That's a rodeo when you get a hold of something like that.
You're not kidding. Well, thank you this week. Gave us a lot of great tips and reports and covered your area real well. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower fresh hotspots. Matt says the bass in Lake Falcon is giving up big numbers of bass. Throw a crankbait or a football jig on the ledge rock to have some fun. And then alligator gars on Lake Falcon are biting cut fresh carp under balloons or on the bottom. And also the bow fishermen are getting some giants, as you can see by that picture.
Oh my gosh, that was gnarly.
That thing is bigger than you.
It was huge.
Gnarly.
All right, I tried. I'll work on
Are we
it.
surfing on that gar or what?
Kinda. You could. Did you see the size of that thing? Okay, the lower coast region is always changing it up when it comes to the variety of species to catch, and this week is no different. Tell everyone what they'll be catching this weekend, Chad.
Tell you what, lower coast has been great. Inshore, offshore, still holding good everything. So going out of Port Mansfield here on the inshore, start out with you there first for the trout fishing has been really, really good. Look for like the weather station off the break there. They've been holding there for quite a while. Redfish have been scattered, but early in the mornings and stuff, you can find them up there in about a foot of water or less for the wade fishermen. Look for some bait just east of the saucer there and stuff. So starting out with the trout, fishing, like I said, has been excellent here in Mansfield. The weather station there, 4 to 5 foot of water. There's a break right there. And try a saltwater assassin slamming chicken's been working really good for the guys that like to fish in plastics. Use an 1/8 ounce jig head. And also the live bait's been working excellent there in the sand pockets. So if you're using the plastic, use a slow retrieve and the 1/8 inch jig head, especially if you're drifting. Work that whole water column. So you got 4 to 5 feet, which is actually deep for us down here. So they go on those grass beds and move through the sand pockets is working real well. On the live bait, such as croaker or piggies, free line it. Use about a 5 to 7 ounce tail hook now. Bait's getting a little bit bigger. And casting the sand pockets has been working excellent also for the trout. And I got a photo of the trout there of a good young man there, Wesley LaFreer. He's out there with his dad and his brother and having a family outing. He got a nice 23-inch barrel by himself, so he sent me that pic, so I figured that was worthy of it.
Yes, sir, it was. All right, what else you got for me inshore? How about some redfish?
Yeah, moving on redfish out of Mansfield there. Like I said, they've been scattered a bit, but if you look real early up in the saucer area, about a foot or less, look for some mullet movement, the small ones, not the real big ones, the smaller mullet movement. When you see it, get your wade fishing, get out there. Most productive there is use an 1/8 ounce gold spoon with quick retrieve, and some top water action's been pretty good too early with the Rapala skitterwalk. Bone color has been working real well right there. And then later as the day goes on, when the sun comes up, guys, you kind of drive around and look for them, but those fish are going to start dropping off to 2, 3, 4 foot of water, so they'll move on out there.
So moving on to the offshore. Offshore's been on fire here, all over the whole lower coast here. So snapper fishing's been excellent, and look deep to the floater rigs for like tuna, wahoo, and billfish. It's just been nuts. The snapper fishing, now we're able to hit the federal waters, of course, on the weekends. And this weekend, July 4th, coming up, guys, you actually get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So you got a 5-day stretch here if you can get out. Try the Williamson rotating flutter jig, like a 3.5 ounce. They're working really good with lighter currents. Put about an 80-pound fluorocarbon leader on it and target some of those suspended fish. And, of course, take some backup bait, take some squid or fresh dead bait if you got it. But on that jig, just go ahead and slowly drop it down through that water column, stop it, and jig it up 4 or 5 feet, 20, 30 foot down, 40, 50 foot down, depending on the depth of water you're working. It'll work excellent, and those bigger fish will be suspended right there. And we got a good picture here of a group I had taken out. It's a full limit picture there, so we got a good picture there of some red snapper on a nice trip there.
Man,
So-
looks like you guys caught some dinner there, Chad.
Yeah, heading out to some great stuff. Look, all up and down the coast here. Look to the floater rigs out in, from Port Aransas, Port Mansfield, South Padre Island. Everybody can reach them from out there if you got the right boat. You got a big contender, a lot of fuel get out there. The big sport fish get out there. But the tuna's been really, really good. The wahoo and the billfish are out there. So go ahead and jig for those tuna. And then on the wahoo, go ahead and put some Rapala divers out there, like a mackerel or purple, work best in color. And for the yellowfin tuna, better thing what I call chunking for them. Cut up little pieces of bait about 1 by 1, all similar sizes. Throw about 8-10 pieces out, and put your bait in there with it with a little live bait hook, and let it free line, let it float right down with the current through it. So when your big tuna hits, let them run 5-second count, put it at the strike, and you'll be on. So I talked to a buddy of mine, Captain Mike Walker. He's with Saltwater Sport Fishing on South Padre. He's got a good picture there of a trip he recently took to the floater rigs out there. And he's got, as you can see, tons of wahoo, a couple dorado, and lots of yellowfin.
Boy, that looks good. Thank you for all the great photos this week, Chad. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower coast hotspots. Inshore, trout and redfish out of Port Mansfield. Look for the trout around the weather stations off the break. And then redfish have been scattered, but early morning look for them in 1 foot or less in the flats east of Saucer. And then offshore, snapper, tunas, wahoos, and billfish. Offshore continues to be on fire. Snapper fishing is excellent, and look for the deep to the floater rigs for the tunas, wahoos, and the billfish.
Sounds like a fun weekend offshore. We're checking in with the Middle Fresh region next, but first we're checking out what's red, white, and blue over at the CCA workbench. Dave, you have some cool new swag for us over this
Yes, I
weekend?
do. Look at this thing. It's like Wonder Bread color.
Wonder Bread.
Yeah, the package on the Wonder Bread
All
with
right,
all the little dots
Dave.
on it. It's beautiful.
Stop
I love
reminiscing about food. We'll be
it
right
catches
back, guys.
people.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, and Pathfinder. Rapala, catch the latest at rapala.com. Yeti, built for the wild. Building Conservation Trust, CCA's National Habitat Program. StarTron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
The ultimate predator has evolved again. Now, Yamaha VMAX SHO Performance is prowling the waters in 4 hungry, exciting new models. With their 4 valves per cylinder and double overhead cam fuel-injected design, these advanced 4-stroke predators are taking performance to a whole new level. Vicious, lean, efficient. VMAX SHO. The pack is growing.
Thanks for tuning in to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes as well as special segments right on our homepage. Just head to TexasInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about the different ways that you can mount your hydraulic anchor. Now think about it this way, guys. Certainly through bolting is the preferred way for all you technical poling skiffs. But you know, this is the typical bracket that comes with all of our poles. So you can simply through bolt it. You can decide whether you want it outward or inward. But in most cases, this is the preferred way for technical poling skiffs. Now with that being said, some of you guys want to move your pole closer in. You want to have it so that it's tighter to a poling platform or right next to your motor. If that's the case, then PowerPole has created this jack plate bracket. And simply this bolts to all jack plates on the side. Now the Atlas as well as the Bob's Machine Shop brackets have been pre-drilled. After you've bolted to the bracket itself, then you can simply mount your power pole to the backside of this. Now for those of you who don't have a jack plate, PowerPole's made it really simple. You can simply take off the engine and then put this against the transom, mounting your power pole here. This is the shim for the other side, and this allows you to be able to use your power poles and have them again mounted using the same holes that you've already drilled, mounting your motor. Now for those of you guys that have flat deck boats like pontoons, PowerPole created this bracket. You simply bolt this to the deck and then you can mount your power pole to this bracket as well. And also for those guys that have boats that are real high, this allows that power pole to extend down in the water so they can actually reach the bottom. Now, we've also created a universal aluminum bracket for all aluminum boats. So if you have any questions about how this is mounted through the splash well of aluminum boat, you can go to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, click on Power Pole, and all your questions can be answered. And that's today's Power Pole tip of the week. Well, the CCA Workbench, every week we offer up new products. It's that time of the show, so let's just get right to it. Dave, you know, I've been fortunate enough to test a lot of different brands of trolling motors over my years. And I will tell you, this Rodan I've been testing now, as you can tell, you know, it's been put through the paces. And I'm very, very impressed with this product. And let me explain to you the difference in this product versus some of the other products that are out there. First off, the foot itself comes Line-X'd. So that continues to keep the paint jobs in the past have always been a significant problem, because when we pull them up on the bracket to store them in the run position, it has a tendency to scratch. The other thing that I like is on the skeg itself, we actually have a zinc that's built in to it. That doesn't have, none of the competitors have that. Now, in two-blade props and trolling motors, what I've experienced is that you have to run the trolling motor deeper so that you don't cavitate, because they're much bigger props themselves. The two-blade props also create a vibration that I think at times scares a fish. A three-blade prop, without any tips rolled over, it doesn't have the vibration.
A lot quieter.
It's a lot quieter, and more realistically, creates more thrust. This motor has more thrust than any of the other two brands that I've fished before. But the people who build the Rodan, they really have thought this out. Here's a good example. This is a keeper that we use for the power steering mode. All right, now these guys created the GPS trolling motor many, many years ago. And so it's not something they're not familiar with. But when you go to tighten up this is what you use to keep your height. The one thing that's been a problem in the past is that nut will fall out. What they did is they took a lock nut and put it out on the end. So guess what? It ended up making it very simple to adjust your height. The key fob that controls this, look, it's got a spot lock. It also has to where we can put it on a cruise control, a true north setting, so it actually sends out a little signal depending on what the wind's doing to the boat. It'll actually adjust without having to make any adjustments. I like the fact that it's a lot smaller than the competitors. It's not cumbersome. It's not falling in the water. It's easy to stick it in your pocket.
They're a miracle, those things. They've changed fishing.
They really have. And the last thing that I really like about this, when you're fly fishing, a lot of times the head gets in the way. Well, what these guys have done is they've made this part of the head where the cord is a lot friendlier. And guess what? I noticed that we're not catching the fly line
line.
on it, because the part that you would have a problem with is facing the right way, or not facing in harm's way.
I gotcha.
So what else you got here? I didn't leave you very much time,
That's
Dave.
all
Sorry.
right. Well, we'll talk about these Williamson lures out here. Those are the Subsurface Pros, and that's a Subsurface GFX, and they're really good for just about anything offshore. Dolphin, anything will eat it, and inshore fish will eat it too. Snook, redfish. You use those things to walk underneath the water, subsurface walking. They sink. When they sink, they flutter horizontally. They're weighted to sink horizontal, and they'll flutter like this, and then you just rip it. You can rip it. You can go, stop and go. You can do whatever you want. You can also swim it subsurfacely. And they're, as you can see through there, look, it's through wired, like
Right.
all Williamson stuff is.
Right.
You're not gonna have one of these little hooks pull out. They have really strong oval rings, double strength rings on it, and inline VMC hooks. So you're gonna catch.
didn't leave you
you're
much
gonna catch
time.
what
I'm
you hook.
sorry, I ate it
Hey,
all
no worries.
up.
That's no worries. It's a good product.
If you have any questions, go to rodanmarine.com, right, Bree?
Exactly. Well, Stephen Johnson in the Middle Fresh region has got the report for you if you plan on being on the water this weekend. Close us out with a firecracker bang, Stephen.
All right, we're going to talk about some yellow bass barfish this week. That's kind of a fish that a lot of people, hear about. They don't, catch a whole lot. But these fish, they're not a white bass. They're not a striper. They're called a yellow bass or a barfish. It just depends on, what part of the, area you're in. They're just about all over my Middle Fresh region, and they're real good up in Rick's Upper Fresh region. They're all over Tawakoni, all over Lake Park. And these are great eating, fun-catching fish. And I always say, if you can't get out there and catch some crappie, this is a great fish to go after. It's great for the family. It's great action. And what these fish do, these fish really like following the black bass around. During the summertime on all of our lakes now, the black bass are finally getting up, and the white bass and schooling on the top. So what these yellow bass will do, these yellow bass will stay under those big schools, and as those shad get crippled and sink to the bottom, these smaller fish, these yellow bass, will eat the shad. They very seldom will come up to the top. They're kind of they like big schools. They stay in big schools, but they stay really on the bottom. And these fish really run from like 18 to 30 foot. A lot of times in certain lakes, in the wintertime, we will catch them deeper than that. But for the summer, this time of year, that 18 to 30 foot range is really a good range to look for them. And the best bait to catch these fish on, I like throwing a quarter or a 3/8 slab spoon, a 3/8 hair jig in a white color, and a shad color crappie jig. And once you get these fish fired up, a lot of times you'll see the bass and a white bass schooling, and you can cast, and if the spoon will get through those. Now, if you catch a bass or a white bass as the spoon's falling, it's great too. But if you can let that spoon get all the way through without catching one of those and get down to the bottom of those yellow bass and get that school of those yellow bass fired up, it's kind of crazy, but you can pick up a big crankbait. And, a lot of these yellow bass, they're like 8 to 11 inches long. They're not huge, but it's amazing what they will do on a big crankbait. They're a super aggressive fish, and once you get that school fired up, you can keep them going, and it's just great action all the way around. And then not only are these fun to catch, these are great eaters. I mean, when you clean these fish, there's no bloodline in them. You can lay a yellow bass and a crappie fillet side by side, and it's really hard to tell the difference. So it's a great deal right now in my whole region, just about all the lakes to get out there and catch some. And I've got a picture there of some we caught this past week. I just kind of laid them out there on the dock and took a picture of them. And you can see they're not huge, but those fish there are like from 9 to 12 inches long.
Nice. All right, well, I'm glad you sent us a picture. Hey, if you know anybody that's got video of them, we certainly could use it, especially if we're going to talk about it for 3 minutes. Tell me about the crappies.
All right, the crappies are still going good all over the region. We're catching them on live bait. We're still catching them on the bridges, on the docks, 15 to 22 foot of water. So we'll work on some of that yellow bass video and see if I can get some good catches the next couple weeks and get back.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much. You did a great job tonight. I appreciate you educating us on the yellow bass. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Middle Fresh region hotspots. Crappie, the fish are all across this region coming off of all the bridges and docks. The best to use live baits and fish from 14 to 20 feet deep, over 20 to 30 feet thereafter, whatever that means. What do you think?
I don't know, man.
I guess after
never caught one of
if you
those
ain't catching them in 10 to 20, then you're going to go to 30.
Thereafter. That's what that means.
Yes.
Well, guys, 4th of July weekend, what's your plans?
Woohoo!
Woo!
4th of July.
I don't know. I'm going to blow something up. That's usually what I do on the 4th of July.
Yeah,
I
well,
blow stuff up.
I get older.
Actually,
How about that?
I'm going to a NASCAR
Oh,
race.
you're going to the race.
I'm going to see Dale Earnhardt Jr. race his last race at Daytona.
Yeah.
That'll be
An
fun.
era of NASCAR is coming to an end.
That will be fun.
really
He'll
sad.
probably win.
I hope he does.
He loves that track.
Take
Man,
lots of
that's
pictures.
That's a Chevy boy. I hope he goes.
Whoop, Chevy.
I need to go fishing.
Bree,
Well,
it's going to be your birthday.
It's going to be my birthday on Tuesday. I have a wedding I'm in on Saturday, my niece's birthday on Sunday. But everyone be safe out on the water this
Don't blow
weekend.
your
God
fingers
bless
off.
America.
Keep
God
your
bless
fingers.
Texas. Have a great weekend, guys.